Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, and welcome back as the TSRC PC GT3 Series ticks over into the second half of Season 5. We're here, of course, for round number 4, our sprint round. For the first time, we're not in the UK. We've taken a trip over the Atlantic. We're here at the Circuit of Americas in Texas, one of the most famous American circuits in, of course, the North American region. It's a very fast, very flowing circuit, sort of taking the best bits of every circuit around the world. Similarly, you know, we've got the Istanbul Turn 8 remake, we've got the Maggots and Beckett's remake through the first sector, and it should be absolutely amazing action over the course of the 25 minutes of racing action that we've got. My name is Zach Sweeney. I've not got Kelsey Gill alongside me today. Instead, I've got the one, the only Paul Glover here in the commentary booth with Kieran Sharp pushing the buttons behind the scenes and making everything look nice and pretty. Paul, of course, welcome into the series. I think you've probably come at one of the best times in the season possible. The sprint round is always something we look forward to.
Yeah, hello everybody. Good to be here. Thanks for joining you. Season 5? I've not watched this series personally before, but I'm a big fan of GT3 racing, and as you say, the sprint series. I'm also a big fan of the track as well, Zach, and I'm expecting some really close, furious racing for everybody to watch tonight.
Fingers crossed, we can hope. Of course, it's the perfect venue in order to host some fantastic racing action. If you're looking at why we're straight onto the grid, fear not, we've not missed qualifying. That's coming in about 25 minutes time. For race number 1 for the sprint round, it's the reverse championship order, which is why you see Dominic Eligner at the bottom of the pros. Then, of course, it's Ryan Cockle leading the way in the AMs. Unfortunately, he is last place in the AMs, but good news is he's on pole position for race number 1. We've got about half of the formation lap left to go before we roll on for our green flag running. Paul, I guess fundamentally it's unanimous, I suppose, across all racing disciplines. How as a driver do you really use the formation lap to prepare? I mean, both physically and mentally, both are things you need to get ready before that spike of adrenaline starts at the green flag.
Yeah, for me, it's all about making sure I can get as much tire temperature as possible. Sometimes I feel it's quite difficult because the formation lap doesn't necessarily go as fast as I would like, but also it's getting those brakes up to temperature as well. Because if you've got temperature in those brakes, it's gonna then dissipate into the tires and help you. Because T1's important, you know, it's up the hill, right to the top, and then you've got a sharp left back down the hill there, and I think that's really important this evening, making sure that you've got those brakes ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are now into the final sector of the formation lap. How about mentally though, Paul? I mean, surely you've got to maybe psych yourself up before a race, maybe even the opposite, calming yourself back down?
Well, yeah, I think it could go a little bit too far, can't you? Because if the adrenaline's running and you're psyching yourself up too much, you might then miss the apex and miss your braking point. Maybe apply a little bit too much throttle and find the car facing the wrong way around. So I think it's, yeah, trying to relax, trying to be focused, but not too intense.
Well, 2x2 formation, they fly into the final couple of corners. It's, of course, James Wright, Mav Gardner alongside him on the front row. Guillaume Hamling and Elias Troy at 3 and 4 just behind. They're going to roll through the final corner and an uphill climb towards turn number 1. And the Ferrari is going to be the one to control the pace. As soon as the green flag drop, as soon as James Wright puts his foot to the floor, we'll be underway for round number 4 of the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series Season 5 ticks over into the second half of this fantastically close championship. They're all gridded up, waiting to go, all 18 strong of them. James Wright leaving it a long time before he puts his foot down. He'll have the inside line going into turn number 1. He crosses the timing line, still waiting as long as he possibly can. There's the green flag. We are go here in Kota. A great start from pole position, but look at Guillaume Hamling going up into second place immediately. The wide line, though, Mav Gardner trying to send the move. Goes a little bit too deep, doesn't quite get the rotation. It's absolute carnage in the background with 3, maybe even 4 wide as well. A good start from James Wright as this fight between the top 2 behind continues on into the S's. Thankfully, I think Guillaume Hamling being the wiser as to tuck him behind.
Yeah, it was a little bit risky behind. As you say, I think cars were going 3-4 wide. I saw a BMW go a little bit deep into turn 1, but generally people are keeping it nice and clean. And we were talking before we went on air. Oh, I think there's a tap in the back there from the Porsche, but fortunately, not too hard. Oh, he's giving them a nudge back just for good measures.
Yeah, Argy Bargy here. Maurice Stryker, of course, in that blue and very striking livery. It must be said, the blue and the yellow, the one he's been notorious for. Trying to move his way past Ethan Faulkner, the Audi R8 in the background. That's, of course, our two-time champion of Sir Smokey, fighting it out with Elias Troyer, the reigning silver champion from Season 4. The battle continues on this long run in towards turn number 12. A good initial getaway from Ethan Faulkner in the Rigoli Racing Ferrari, one of the best-looking liveries on the field. However, the side-by-side drag race might well be won by Maurice Stryker, who tries to go the long way round into the braking zone, is forced wide, however, as the Audi R8 of Sam Fleety finds his way alongside, now goes to the outside through 13, and it can often work, and this middle sector, Paul, is really good at promoting side-by-side action.
Yeah, it really is. It's the twisty section. You can take multiple lines. You watch it in multiple series, including Formula One, and that's what I like about this middle section at COTA, is the fact that you can take an outside line, you can take an inside line, and it just gives you great opportunities because the track's nice and wide. But saying that though, track limits may, even in a short stint like this, may become a problem because drivers can get a little bit too greedy at times.
Yeah, to my knowledge, of course, it's 3. And then on a 4th, you get yourself a drive-through penalty, which, of course, no one likes. Samuel Chumley with a very, very good overlap. By the way, Paul, it is Chumley. It's not Chumondley. We went 4 seasons before we found that out. Jack Southfield, however, really impressive stuff, trying to move his way up onto the podium. Even already onto the podium, he's trying to move his way up into 2nd place. Guillaume Hamling putting up a valiant defense against the very, very infamous driver of Jack Southfield here in the championship. He's using that Bentley's agility or lack thereof potentially. It's quite big and bulky and might not fare too well through the twists and the turns here at COTA, but for now the fight continues and is looking very good in that fight for second. I have to say, someone that's going to be loving this carnage in the background is going to be James Wright out in front.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing before you said it, because Hamlin's already 1.5 seconds back, and while he's battling away with the Bentley of Southall, who's right up his backside and looking at the timing screens. But as you say, that is a big car. I refer to it as the Boatley from time to time. So that trio there of Hamlin, Southfield and Gardner is going to keep Mr. Hamlin, I think, busy for the next few laps and give Mr. Wright the opportunity to break free. As we can see in the background there, a couple of cars, a Ferrari in the background, another one hitting one of the curbs and get a little bit unsettled as we look at Elias Troyer, and then we're looking at Mr. Smoggy going down the right-hand side, looking for a move on the McLaren. Does he make it stick? No, I think the McLaren's got the inside line and is probably going to cover that off nicely.
Yeah, a little bit deep from the Ferrari as well. That might be of McGowan. So Smokey, though, chucks the move to the inside. He's fighting out with championship leader Dominic Aligna, of course, who, again, has a really nice livery on that McLaren 720S. A big snap of oversteer on the Audi R8, though, of Sir Smokey. Is able to keep it under wraps and maybe point himself nicely for a late apex. However, he's got the long way around to go through 17 and 18, which is the last thing as a driver you want to do. Talking about tyre wear, yes, it's only a 25-minute race, Paul, but as we've talked about, however, we'll come back to it in just a second. Track limits from Jack Southfield. He's invited wide from Guillaume Hamling and very firmly settles back into 3rd place. But as we were touching on before the broadcast, a circuit like COTA, yes, it's only 25 minutes, but towards the end, you are going to be feeling the effects of tyre wear.
Oh yeah, for sure, because the tyres are being asked to do a lot, especially in the middle section that we were talking about. As we look here, there's a battle coming into T1 and the defensive from the Lexus trying to cover it off a little bit as we've. I mean, it's just absolute carnage, isn't it? There's just cars absolutely everywhere, and Mr. Nuttall, currently in P5, gets a little bit of a love tap from Faulkner there. Oh, there's contact. Is that who was that? Was that Ethan Faulkner?
Faulkner's gone, yeah. He's there, he's in the barrier, and I think he is out of this race. Probably terminal damage, and I would not want to be the virtual mechanic having to repair that Ferrari. A big shunt, but easily done. Samuel Chumley finds himself side by side with Elias Troyer. The inside turns to the outside, but will quickly turn to the inside again. Not quite got the overlap going through the next left. Bit of a twitch from the Porsche. Not quite as stable as Elias Troyer would like, and that is going to promote Samuel Chumley to maybe have a bit of a look. The fighting continues in front as well with Maurice Stryker side by side with Sam Fleety also. There's just, wherever you look, Paul, there's someone overtaking someone, and I have to say, I couldn't really have asked for a better opening 6 minutes.
No, we were saying I was hoping it was going to be a fantastic race. I think we've got that, but I could just think, I think that Stryker just getting into the trying to get into the slipstream of Nuttall. No, not Nuttall. It's Fleety. I think he was tucking in behind him. But yeah, before we cut away and saw Southfield running wide, I was trying not to interrupt you. I noticed that Hamlin lost P3 to 1 point to Southfield. And then obviously running wide meant that Hamlin got P2 back. And you can see it's nearly 3 seconds now. Lead. Oh, there's contact.
Yep. Samuel Chumley not going to be a very happy bunny with the McLaren, I think it was, of it might have been of Dominic Aligna that tagged him round. However, going into that left-hander, you're braking and turning at the same time, trying to trail brake your way in. Very easy to unsettle the car in that status and that positioning, which unfortunately saw Samuel Chumley have a bit of an off. He's managed to hold it into the pit lane, though. Is that Sam Fleet? No, that is
That's Smoggy.
That's Smoggy coming in.
Yeah, Smoggy.
Why?
Well, honestly, yeah, it could well be, couldn't it? Or maybe he's had a spin that we've missed and the tyres got off. It was 18 minutes of the race left, but yeah, it's really hard to say, isn't it? He's now come to a full stop in the pit, so it's not a drive-through or anything like that, because we would see that on the leaderboard.
Yeah, we would. So he's not exceeded track limits more than 4 times. Otherwise, as Paul said, we would see it's a drive-through. The tyres surely can't be that shot in the opening 8 minutes of a race. I cannot believe that for 1 second. He's not really had much in the way of spins either. There's a send from Dominic Ligner, who's definitely getting his elbows out in this reverse grid championship order race. Elias Troy giving him a good fight and is able to deter the reigning race winner of Dominic Ligner, 2-time race winner in this season over races 1 and 2. Missed out, of course, in race 3, but that's his drop score, so we won't count it at all. 2-time race winner. Now to the outside, also ducking and diving, Jamie Nuttall, who is our reigning champion. A Constantina effect in the background as McGowan gets himself involved with the back end of the pro fight. Dominic Ligner, not going to be too happy with a Ferrari.
No, it seemed the Lexus of Nuttall seemed to slow down quite dramatically there, which I think caught the cars behind. And fortunately for Nuttall, he's fallen down to P6 while we were looking at the other battle. So that's allowed Mr. Fleety here to get up into P5 and now putting Gardner under pressure.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. The first step really is to apply pressure. And what it must be said that speaks volumes about the competitiveness of this championship is that even in the reverse grid race, the man who started on the front row is still inside the top 5. Hamling, who started up there, is in second. I mean, Hamling is very, very good. James Wright is up there after starting on pole position. It just goes to show that the championship leaders aren't always going to be the quickest drivers out there on track. And, you know, Dominic Ligner is still struggling to carve his way through the field, which just speaks volumes about how good of a championship this is. And obviously, with it being a sprint format, it's enticing people to go for sends they might not usually go for. Elias Troyer finds his way past Maurice Stryker and the Flying Dutchman, really struggling in this midfield pack. Also side by side between Sam Fleety and Mav Gardner. The BMW of Gardner has got the outside line going uphill and towards turn number 1, but it's just action all over the place. And it's so hard to read situations like this, isn't it, Paul? Because you've just got to attack and defend all at the same time.
Yeah, so you got to have eyes looking forward and potentially just thinking about what could come from behind in equal measure. I think it's interesting you point out that Illinger has been able to make progression there. It may be that McLaren isn't necessarily best suited around here, because we do know that certain cars do go round better at certain tracks. So there might be something in that, you know. The McLaren might not be the strongest car around here.
Maybe so, but I often compare COTA quite a lot to Silverstone, because apart from the fact it's got a lot of undulation, Silverstone doesn't. Fundamentally, the types of corners you face, fairly similar. And the McLaren has always been really good at Silverstone because of its agility and its very focused front end. Bit of contact door-to-door between Elias Troy and Jamie Nuttall. Getting the up and under, though, Elias Troy, which is always a good start when you're proceeding onto a very, very long straight like this back one in towards turn number 12. Jamie Nuttall searching for his best result of the season. However, the reigning champion, his only best is 8th, and he's looking to get himself into the top 6.
Yeah, I was at one point the Porsche was alongside and actually ahead of Nuttall, but the Lexus stretched its legs, as we know, and unfortunately for the Porsche, it's now under pressure from Stryker behind and co, that it hasn't got the legs down the straights, and it really showed there. And then as the Lexus pulled away, but through this twisty section, Nuttall seems to become a bit of a blocker for these cars, and they're going to try their best to get past, I think, because as soon as you get to the back straight or even the front straight, Nuttall's just going to pull away.
Yeah, indeed. So I mean that Porsche, of course, is I believe it's a front-mounted flat six, which obviously lowers the center of gravity, puts all the weight on the front, which makes it a very agile car through the corners, really good at getting the front end rotated. However, that Lexus not quite so much. It's very good when you put your foot flat and it can climb up the rev range, but the Porsche is so much quicker through the corners. And look at this train. We've got nose to tail from Nuttall down to Striker in towards turn number 1. Uphill braking zone, of course, assisted by gravity, pinches at the apex. You can go for some good sends, like Marie Striker going the long way round of the reigning champion of, the reigning race winner of Dominic Ligner, I should say, two-time race winner. The reigning champion is Jamie Nuttall. I don't know where that's coming from, that Ligner's the reigning champion. It's because he's the championship leader. I'm getting myself mixed up. It's too hot, it's too sweaty, it's start of August in the UK, and it's just too hot. I cannot English right now, but it's fine.
This is not the summer we were hoping for. But
no.
I have to say, Nuttall covered that inside line at T1 very nicely. As we're looking at the battle behind between the McLaren and the Ferraris. Great little tussle this. If they could just break free of the Lexus, I think they would leave him in their wake. As the Porsche again trying to come in late, and I think that would be a very, very bold move, trying to come in that late into these tight corners. And look at this now. The Lexus is going to stretch his legs, and behind we've got the Porsche, which is now under pressure from the McLaren and the Ferrari down into the legs. Is anybody going to have a little look? The Porsche covers the line, a little bit defensive. It gets followed. Look at this. Are they gonna touch? No, they make. Oh, I tell you, the 23 there. I think that's a great bit of driving. Didn't take any risk, but unfortunately now has put himself under immense pressure himself.
That's the problem with fighting so close in these trains, is that you attack, put yourself offline, disrupt your momentum. Driver behind says, cheers, mate, I'm going to be driving straight past you. And then you're sort of in a pickle where there's a final point, and then you get pinched in the middle. And it's very easy to end up in contact that way. But Striker keeping himself nicely out of trouble. And that's the thing, really, when it comes to packs of trains like this, you know, you're going to have more than one opportunity. You do not need to go for a do or die send. You can sit back, you can keep yourself out of trouble. Elias Troy, though, trying to go the long way around to Jamie Nuttall. Looked to be a fabulous move, a little bit off the circuit, of course, but gets given the space from the reigning champion, who pushes once again the Porsche to the extremities of the circuit through the final corner at turn 20. Sees him side by side, and now he is, and that is the fluctuation. That's the topsy-turvy nature of trains like this. You can be at the advantage at 1 second, and then on the bottom of the train in the next.
The gap between P1 and P2 while this is going on has closed down a little bit, but I've just noticed it's opened back up to about 1.5 seconds. But as we can see here, oh no, there's collision. He's trying to catch it, and he's fortunately no one else really got taken out there. I was actually really surprised by that.
I'm surprised Marie Striker didn't go sending off like a bullet, to be honest, because he got a fairly hefty whack, but that Ferrari seemed really planted, which is quite impressive. And I am surprised it was only Elias Troy that got sent. I'm sure Striker was firmly heart in his mouth moment as he tried to catch the car, but it was very well controlled from the Ferrari. Unfortunately for Elias Troy, getting a little bit out of shape. I do think it was on his own volition, though. I don't think he was invited round. Maybe over the curb ever so slightly. Again, with it being a front-mounted flat six, not a lot of stability on the rear in that Porsche.
True.
Anyone that's tried to drive it knows that. It's a very twitchy car. As soon as it's unsettled, it's going around.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm driving the Porsche, I'm filling the fuel tank because the car seems to drive better for me at that when it's got loads of fuel. But then that leaves you even more susceptible down the straights, as we've seen. But yeah, Striker still going. As you say, really surprised he didn't end up in a wall or spinning around, as there was quite a hefty contact between their both cars. But now he's going to head down and try to get P8. As we can see, Nuttall remains under immense pressure. Let's see if the McLaren of Shimon Lee can make it.
Yeah, he's doing his best, and I guess Nuttall knows what it's like to defend. He's gone for something a bit different in that Lexus. Very nice car, sounds perfect. Does overheat the tyres quite a lot in my own experience of driving it. It's not too user-friendly. Inside line for Samuel Chumley, he tries to send the move at the apex, but again, only harming himself with those half-hearted moves to the inside, because you saw straight away Dominic Aligna was looking at that situation thinking, how can I attack? And now might have a good look into turn one.
Yeah, but he's covering the inside line, knowing that he's under pressure. But then look at that, that's opened the door. Oh no, there's contact.
Oh no,
there's a domino effect, unfortunately there, and Nuttall is round.
He is, and all that hard work is meant for nothing. He's down to P11 outside of the top 10 for Jamie Nuttall. He now finds himself, ironically, with Elias Troyer right behind him. So some very romantic thing that you could talk about there, I suppose. They've both had their hardships and now they've reunited together. I don't know. Shakespeare probably was all over it at some point. I don't know. But yeah, that fight up front continues. And I think it was just that Constantino effect. Marie Striker going in too hot, tapping into Chamili, who then, by extension, tapped into Nuttall. And when you're at that slower speed, ironically, the car is almost just as unstable as it is at high speed. So just a slight little doink, and it was enough to clip the rear end round, unfortunately, for Jamie Nuttall. And to be fair to him, that is a shame because he was a passenger in that, and he was doing a really good job defending up until that point.
Yeah, courageous effort in the Lexus, really, in the one and only in this race this evening. So, yeah, unfortunate for him, but that does mean that the championship leader gains a spot. Is now up into P7. So, you know, it's a shame for Nuttall, but somebody else gets a gain from it. But yeah. We've got this battle here now for P3. Sam Fleety putting Southfield under immense pressure. Can the Bentley hold him off?
Well, we'll wait and see. Jack Southfield, of course, as I say, is our infamous take the mick out of driver. Not only is he ginger, but also apparently his mum watches the race and stuff. And Andrew Pike seems to be quite fond of that. So we'll wait and see how we can exploit the fact that Jack Southfield's on the grid. To be fair to him, he's doing a really good job up there in P3, which for the Bentley is a pretty good result, and considering his season so far, again, is a pretty good result. But Sam Fleety, who of course has taken a number of pole positions, I think a few weeks ago we went to Paul Ricard, did take pole position as well, and he is naturally a very quick driver. 2 podiums so far this season with 2nd and 3rd. He's going to be wanting to add to that tally. Samuel Chumley, the 2 McLarens fly in formation into turn number 1. It's Samuel Chumley on the outside, Dominic Aligna on the inside. He goes in deep, and boom, look at the power of that late apex as you dip your way downhill.
Yeah, and great side-by-side battle. Is he gonna hang out? No, he's got the inside line and up into P6. Lovely little move, and now he's gonna straight onto the back of the BMW. Yeah,
and he's just trying to use each car as a stepping stone. Matt Gardner going a little bit wide, which is going to invite Samuel Chumley to maybe have a bit of a look. A little bit wide, too wide, in fact. And now Mav Gardner under threat from losing not 1, not 2, but maybe even 3 places as Maurice Striker gets caught up looking to the inside. Yeah, Mav Gardner just going to show how momentum-based Kota is.
And the championship leader now up into P6. So that's unfortunate for Samuel, really, because you want the championship leader that you're chasing to be a few places back to gain less points. But there is obviously another qualifying session after this race, which is 6.5 minutes to go, and we've got race 2 to come. If this is what race 1's been about, I can't wait for race 2.
Yeah, let's wait and see, because it just means that qualifying is irrelevant, basically, because anyone can race anything. I mean, to be fair, it has played a part because James Wright started on pole, and he's in essence ran away with this race because of the battling that's ensued behind. And that's what happens when you put people out of position relative to where they maybe usually would be. I mean, you take the championship standings and you think, on a good day, that might be where people rack up in qualifying. So people are basically the opposite end of the spectrum as to where they should be on the grid. And then you've got all the faster guys, I'll put in, air quotes, fighting at the back, which means the slower guys, not saying James Wright or Guillaume Hamling are slow because they are far from, but the quote unquote maybe lower down in the championship, they can then run away with things out in front. And it does open the door for some interesting opportunities. I mean, I'd expect race 2 to be a bit more tame, but these guys are racing drivers, and we know what that means.
Yeah, I do know what that means, and yeah, it's great to see like the competitiveness of this series. And as you say, when you've got the faster drivers at the back, it doesn't always, it's not like a Max Verstappen in F1 where he's got the best car. Here it's a little bit more challenging, especially around certain tracks, because certain cars go better at certain track layouts, as we've discussed earlier on. So 5 minutes of the race to go, and battles up and down the order, and we've got a couple of arms higher up as well, the order in P9 and P10, because of the incidents that have also taken place today. So the pros of Nuttall and Troyer a little bit further back than they would have liked.
Yeah, unfortunately for the AMs, they don't score it on an overall basis. They get their own separate championship for their respective positions in their own race. Otherwise, Gameo and McGowan would be loving life a couple of places clear of Coco Cisco and most importantly, Lucas Spies in P15. It is just first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth in the AMs. Going defensive, though, Maurice Stryker able to find his way past Mav Gardner, who immediately is on the counter attack. That Ferrari not quite good on the straights, but average everywhere. Outside line for the BMW. The Ferrari goes late on the brakes, a little bit too late. Mav Gardner doesn't quite read it too well, and Maurice Stryker, unfortunately, getting a little love tap to his rear end.
Yeah, and I think because of that, the BMW, I think, kind of sort of let him go because he realised that if he took the position after that tap, he'd probably get a penalty if the stewards would review it at the end of the race. So, but again, that's put him back because he slowed down quite a lot there. That's now put him into the clutches of the two cars behind. So that just seems to be the way this race is going. One moment you're on the attack, the next moment you've got to have your turrets out because you've got to be on defence. So as we look at Jim McGowan in the Sen City 462.
Yeah, very pink. And then also very black at the same time. Nice livery, it must be said. Simple but works. And we've got a couple of good liveries on this one. Of course, Ethan Faulkner isn't in this race anymore, but he is one of my favourite liveries. It's one of the only only non-red Ferraris that I actually like. Also with that very pink one as well. They make it work. Fighting here at the back end, of course, in weird fashion. Elias Troy and Jamie Nuttall were fighting for P6 not too long ago, but unfortunately now find themselves locked in a bit of a battle. The 63 machine, of course, Elias Troy trying to go the long way around. Gets a slight overlap going into the S's, but really nothing you can do unless you are either very brave or very stupid.
The battle for P1's hotting up. I'm spotting it out the corner of my eye where I mean, I know this is a great battle here for Elias Troyer as he's putting Nuttall under pressure, but the gap now between P1 and P2 is under a second. It's been coming down the last few laps. There's only just under 2.5 minutes of the race left. Maybe Hamlin's been saving those tyres, that Lamborghini, for the later stages of this race. So let's keep an eye and see if that gap continues to come down. But it's one thing catching up, it's another thing entirely, as we've seen tonight, making the move and making it cleanly.
And making it, stay like that as well, because it's one thing to get in front, and then another thing entirely to keep it. We are about to start the final lap of the race. Yeah, they're doing 2:07 around here, so it will be the 11th and final lap of race number 1 here for round 4 of the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series Season 5. So many acronyms in that championship name, but I've been here all 5 seasons, so I should probably get used to it by now. Jack Southfield still fighting away with Sam Fleety as they battle for 3rd place. Guillaume Hamling, interestingly though, also only 0.7 of a second away from James Wright. Problem is, though, he's got to keep that momentum up and hope that the slipstream's strong enough to put him into contention for that final run, potentially on this final lap.
Yeah, indeed, as we're now coming up the hill for the final time, as the race leaders are on their final lap, with just over a minute of the race to go. And he's done a good job in that Bentley today. It can't be the easiest car to drive around here, because it is like driving a boat. But here we go, Elias Troyer then, side by side with Nuttall, as they come down the start-finish straight. So again, he has to tuck in, looking for that slipstream, because that Lexus is just too slippery down the straights, and it just shows you he's clearly got more pace as he looks the inside line. And I don't know, I think he might have caught Mr. Nuttall sleeping a little bit there.
Yeah, I think Nuttall went in a bit too deep. Elias Troy just went really wide, turned in nice and late, put his foot down and drove past him. Very clever driving, and made the most of a very uncharacteristic mistake from Jamie Nuttall. 30 seconds on the clock, of course. When that ticks to 0, the checker flag will be waved, and this will be the final lap. This is an interesting fight to look at. Dominic Aligna with a drive-through penalty for track limits. Of course, he can't serve that on that final lap. I think it turns into a 30-second penalty, which I think will firmly see him at last place. Huge news for the championship leader.
Wow, that's really changed the dynamic. I think it's a minute and a half, isn't it?
Elias Troyer as well.
Yeah. Oh, blimey. Yeah, and look at that. I said I called it. I called it early on. Track limits. I mean, look. I mean, it's happening. People have been pushing that hard, especially at the start. We saw a few run wide in the first couple of laps. A great little battle here, as unfortunately Fleety makes that move. stick. So did he? Did the Bentley?
Yes.
Did the Bentley lose the position? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
he did.
leaderboard hasn't updated. So I thought I was going crazy for a second. As we look at James White, Zach.
To come across the line, he's got one more corner left to go. Guillaume Hamling tried, but it was too little, too late. From pole position, James Wright takes his first victory of the season. He crosses the line victorious at the Circuit of the Americas for race number 1. The run to the line, though, Sam Fleety able to top Jack Southfield to a podium and adding to his already growing podium count up to 3 for the season already. And the only time he was off it was a P5 at round 1. So looking very, very strong this season. 30-second penalty for Dominic Eligner. Fortunately for him, his next best score, which his current drop score is a 4th place. So thankfully for Eligner, he's got a good bank of points to fall back on.
Indeed, and I mean, it's, you don't get any points for it, but Sam Fleety, I think, Dominic Eligner, sorry, with the fastest lap of the race, a 2:06. No, actually, yeah, it is 2:06.8. So not bad going right here. Much quicker than I could manage.
You and me both. Yeah, absolutely. I did love the Elias Troy, the fact in the chat, obviously we caught a very brief glimpse of it going from good luck all to a joke, full stop. So probably the biggest switch up I think I've seen in sim racing. Anyway, the results of race 1, James Wright, Guillaume Hamling, Sam Fleety, the podium, 5 different manufacturers inside the top 5, showing the balance of performance, working very, very, very well. Samuel Chumley rounds off, of course. Maurice Stryker, Mav Gardner, Gameo in behind, of course. Gameo McGowan 1 and 2 in the AMS. Jamie Nuttall rounds off the top 10 with Paolo Cisco P11. Championship leader Dominic Eligner only 12th after his net drive-through penalty of 30 seconds, taking the fastest lap for a bit of a bittersweet end to the race. Blanchette, Coco and Troy are the top 15, with the championship leader in the AMS, Lucas Spies, also getting himself a 30-second penalty down to 16th. So Smokey, Ethan and Faulkner round off the 18-strong field that we've got. Into qualifying now, Paul. 15 minutes onto the clock. Go, go, go as fast as you can. Suppose it's good news for Eligner, considering the fact that he took the fastest lap at the end of the race.
Yeah, he's clearly got the pace in that McLaren. So, I'm not sure which lap he actually did that on. I wasn't really paying too much attention at the time, but whether the McLaren's got the pace throughout the whole race, or whether it's just when it gets less fuel, it starts to kind of open its legs a little bit. So now we're kind of back to more of a normal format for the second race. We might see a better idea of actually the pace of each car. And that's going to be interesting for Nuttall, because as we saw in race 1, under a lot of pressure for the majority of that race, and unfortunately that ended up with him with contact into T1 and a concertina effect, and he getting spun round. And I'm guessing by the message that we saw in the chat there that Troy suspects he had contact, which spun him round, and you seem to think he might have done it on his own, but I was pretty certain there was contact in that. But a replay will surely tell us more.
Yeah, I'm usually wrong. I probably am wrong. And from first sight, unfortunately, replays aren't the easiest thing in ACC. Unlike iRacing, where you can just rewind it, boom, there you go, as many replays as you like.
It depends what applications you're running, Zach. I've got a lot to teach you, so you can learn a thing from me if you've got some time. So
my PC is not quite as powerful enough to run. I did one actually for the TSRC. I remember when Kieran wasn't available one week. I had to do it at Zolder. Had so much fun with it because I could just control where all the graphics went. So we spent a good 5 minutes of the race just being stupid with the graphics, spinning them all around the screen. A lot of fun. Probably would get me very kicked out of JP Broadcasting very quickly if I did it on a regular basis. So I think I'll stick with the commentary for now, but we'll see in the future. We're still waiting, of course, to run away into qualifying, and boom, I'm basically psychic. They're lined up, they're ready to go, and we're green for 15 minutes of qualifying. The good thing about, I suppose, about this circuit, Paul, is the fact that, as we touched on, track position doesn't mean too much, so you can afford maybe to be a little bit off the pace in qualifying as long as you can make it up in the race.
Yeah, I think as we saw, it could be a little bit chaotic. Turn 1, lap 1, and even turns 3, 4, and 5, because the field is very bunched together, and the track, as we saw, allows you to go 3, potentially 4 if you really want to risk it. Wouldn't go 5 wide. You're just asking for trouble. I'm just looking at my system here. I think the contact that spun Troy around was between him and 111. So looking at what I've got here. So it'll be interesting to see if a protest is submitted and there's an incoming penalty after these races have completed. But yeah, he'll be hoping for a better race, and I think qualifying for Troy is really important, right? Because if you've got a slippy car in front of you, you're going to struggle to get past. You might have pace through the windy bits, but as soon as any other car sort of opens up its legs, you're kind of waving goodbye. And maybe needs to be a little bit more aggressive on some of the moves. I think, as you touched on, Zach, in race 1, some of the drivers were a little bit tentative, and because they were tentative, it was leaving them vulnerable to attack from behind because they weren't committed enough.
Yeah, it's an awkward tightrope you have to walk. Too aggressive, and you're getting a smack on the wrist from the stewards post race, and not aggressive enough, and you're losing places, and you get seen like a weakling. And when it comes to sim racing, you do not want to show any weakness, so you sort of have to give what you're given, essentially, when it comes to racing. Obviously, keep it within the limits and things, but sometimes you do have to get your elbows out a little bit, claim the track space, because if not, you are just going to sink. And it's like a food chain, essentially. Only the strongest survive in some cases. Yes, sim racing can be that brutal, particularly when you get to the more competitive things. Yes, at this level, but even beyond that, the aliens at esports, they give it out. They give it out quite a lot, which obviously makes for some very entertaining races and some very big fireworks when things go wrong. Fortunately, it's not a LAN event, so they can't physically go and beat each other up after the race, which is always a good sign. Hopefully no mean Discord messages either, but that's another thing entirely when it comes to league racing. Fortunately, the TSRC Discord is nice and vibey, and everyone likes each other, at least for the most part. That's what I've seen anyway. So yeah, hopefully people can keep it nice and clean for the duration of the second race, and make the most of their time on track in qualifying, because it is quite a long lap though, Paul. They're not going to get many laps in order to sort of show what they can do in terms of one lap pace, because by the time they do an out lap, already they've lost 3 minutes. By the time they didn't then do a flying lap, they want to come back in and change tires, that's then another out lap. They're probably only looking at 3, maybe even 4 flying laps throughout the 15 minutes.
Yeah, I've because I don't have outright pace, I tend to find I go faster the more laps I do. So I tend to just put fuel in for a decent stint, especially, as you say, in a track like this where you're going to struggle to put in a lot of laps if you do come in and refuel. I mean, I completely understand you want fresh boots on the car because that's got the grip, and very quickly a couple of laps in. But sometimes for me, it's just finding that rhythm, and allows me to find a bit of time braking later here, being a little bit more aggressive here. But going back to what you were saying about the overtaking, I think sometimes I try to make myself a bit of a nuisance. Am I going to go to the left? Am I going to go to the right? It's a bit difficult when you've got another car right behind you, because in what we saw today, because you've got to try and predict what the car ahead's going to do, but also what the car behind's going to do, and that car the behind's also got to be able to watch what you're doing, and then if you're not too careful, you might end up creating some absolute carnage down the straights if you're moving a little bit too aggressively. But I didn't see a lot of that, and I think maybe it's just trying to keep the car ahead guessing, and try not to be as predictable, because if you are too predictable, it's a lot easier to defend, of course.
That's true. Yeah, you've got to expect the unexpected, and try and go for those moves that they're not really expecting. I mean, as a driver that's defending, Chumley sets a good pace with a 206. Dominic Ligner says, sod that, mate. I'm going to go nearly a second quicker to a 206.1. Will we see anyone into the 205? Sam Fleety gets quite close to a Ligner's time. But yeah, as a driver that defends a lot, you sort of settle into a pattern. You think, okay, they're quick here, they're quick there, they're slow there. This is where I need to defend. And then they sort of get into this sense of security that they think, oh, I'll be fine. That's exactly when you want to make it a false sense of security and start sending moves up the inside, because they're not going to expect it, and you'll catch them off guard. Always a sort of a good basis to go off. Ryan Blanchett for Skidder.
Oh, I think we might have... I think we might have just lost Ryan there a little bit there. Not Ryan, sorry, Zach. Zach, are you still there? You had a bit of noise there on your microphone. You've gone pretty quiet.
Have I? Am I back now? Am I all good?
You're very quiet. You've got a lot quieter than you were a moment ago. Yeah, there was a bit of a noise, and then you've kind of gone quiet. So, don't know if you've had some kind of cable come loose. But anyway, Maurice then in the number 14 is trying to set his first timed lap by the looks of it on my screen, as Dominic is still the fastest with a 2:06.1, closely followed by Sam Fleety, sorry, with a 2:06.2, and Shamodi there with a 2:06.8. So the top three currently in the 2:06s, and Maurice then hasn't set a lap yet, but Shamodi then in the 1:11 McLaren, as we wait for Zach to return.
Hopefully I'm good now.
Well, there
Am I
you
good?
go. Yes, you're good now. You are back
All right.
to normal volume. So good to have you
Oh.
back.
It's a good start. It's a good start. Honestly, tech issues scare me when it comes to commentary. I'm always at the mercy of the microphone. Might be a sign for me to stop being a cheapskate and go again, but
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah. Go and buy a decent microphone. I don't know, but look, I mean, look how close it is at the top there, and then Dominic's like, oh no, I'm going to go a little bit faster. So, but it is tight there, isn't it? And it's the two McLarens leading the way. So forget what I said in race 1 about the McLarens not having pace.
they're quick. They're quick cars. And they showed that, in fact, in race 1. Aligner and Chumley were able to fight their way through. And now in qualifying, they're able to show their mettle a little bit more. Very, very close, very competitive, and on the fringes of potentially a 2:05, which would be very, very quick, of course, quicker than we've seen at all. Jamie Nuttall, 2.5 seconds off the pacing on his first lap. Obviously, that's subject to approval as the track gets a bit quicker. I don't know if that speaks good or bad about Nuttall. Obviously, he's not on the pace, but he was able to fight in the top 5 for a good portion of that race.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? You're quite right. It'll be interesting to see it to look at the sector times for what he's done. So yeah, he's just under a second off in sector 1. He's over a second off in sector 3. So he's losing a lot of time in the third and final sector, really. But I mean, he is off the pace currently, but he might also just be trying to get up to speed. As I say, it takes me a few laps to find my best, and it might be the same for Jamie.
Potentially so, yeah. I mean, you can't really afford to be slow. I mean, it's a good start to, get a good banker lap time in. It means you've got something to fall back on. Much better than leaving it all to chance on that final lap, because you never know. An invalidation, a mistake, traffic, anything.
People invalidating laps at the moment. Hamlin's invalidated a lap. His last lap. Spies is invalidated. Dominic, Shamonley, they're all on invalidated laps at the moment. But to be honest with you, the leaders, the P1 and P2 are currently on their out laps anyway, so they've invalidated those. It doesn't really matter. We're looking at Sam Fleety, who is coming round to try and find some time. And there we go, P1. He finds it.
Beautiful. 2:10s as well over Dominic Aligner. 2:05.8, which is a very, very quick time around the circuit of the Americas. Dominic Aligner is going to need a response to that. But when you've already reached the high ceiling that you're close to your best, 0.2 of a second is a lot of time to find.
It is, yeah. But I think the track, you've got to remember, the track will probably rubber in as each car goes round. And again, they've been racing race 1 with their race fuel in. The car's a little bit lighter. The car's handle a little bit different, and I think it can take a few laps just to kind of get used to that low fuel setup a little bit. And you remember, you can be a little bit more aggressive because you are carrying less fuel on board, as Patrizio there goes up into P10.
Yeah, and the AM pole position as well for Patrizio Gimeo. He finds himself up into P1, P10 overall. Of course, they are going to start as one continuous field. So while the points are scored separately for the pros and the AMs, they all start as one big field, which means if Gimeo can, maybe get a couple of places off the start, build a gap to McGowan, he could be quite good for a race victory if he's able to play his cards right. Can see a couple of you tuning in to the YouTube chat. Of course, Kieran Sharp, our producer, he's in there, obviously sending his condolences for me. We've got Kajun as well, taking the mick out of Jack Southfield, which is exactly what we like. He's been able to move his way up to P7, albeit 1.8 seconds off the pace, which unfortunately isn't great.
He's 4/10 up at the moment on his best lap, so he's finding a bit of time. James Wright, he's down on his fastest lap, so he's not going to find anything on this lap, unfortunately, for him. Spy is down in P13, is currently 1 second up on his fastest, but Smoggy was up by about 2 seconds, but he has just invalidated his lap. And the person that's really got to sort himself out is Mr. Hamlin, because he keeps invalidating. I think he might still be out on his out lap, and so is Smoggy, actually, and so is Cockle. So Hamlin has just started his timed lap, so we need to keep an eye on that, because he's currently down in P16.
Yeah, and Hamlin is a very, very quick driver, very strong when it comes to the TSRC, because he's come runner-up, I think, on a number of occasions, always up there sort of in the top 3 in the championship standings, unable really to quite break that threshold and get him as a champion just yet. Jamie Nuttall given a good dose of slipstream from...
P6, I think he'll get maybe P5, P6, he's on the edge, he's got slipstream. He's
P7, that's underwhelming.
P7, yeah. Gamello there currently in P10. He's just found a bit more time. Hamlin is up 1.3 seconds, but he hasn't really set a time. So I don't know where it's getting that from. As we're looking at Dominic Igner, he's invalidated this lap, so he won't be gaining.
He won't be, but he's able to start what could be his penultimate lap if he's able to go straight off the bounce. Whether the tyres can take that or not, who knows? Now, as he climbs up the hill in towards turn number 1, again, it's gravity assisted. You can brake really late and just point yourself at the apex. So what I love about COTA turn number 1 is there's so many different ways you can take it. So many pros and cons of different things as well. Clipping down the hill in towards turn 2. Here is Guillaume Hamlin, by the way, yet to set a lap time. And this is what I was going back earlier, Paul, about getting a good bank lap time in. Guillaume Hamlin doesn't have the luxury of a time to fall back on. He needs to nail these laps.
Does indeed, and he can get another one in as well. He's got 2.5 minutes still on the clock, so he will get round to complete another lap. And as you say, I think a banker lap is really important, because we touched on it a couple of times. It's very easy to go over the limits here and forget where the white line is and get all 4 wheels off the track. But he is finding some nice bits of time. I would expect this to be nicely up the order as he comes into the final corner. Keeps it nice and tidy. Do not run wide. He keeps it nicely within the lines and crosses the line up into P7, and he continues on to another. I can see that Illiner and Striker are both making time up on this lap, around about 2 tenths up for both of their times currently. So Dominic will be looking, if he can keep that. He's now 4 tenths up. He's on for pole currently, if he can keep it clean.
If he can keep it clean, and he'll know that he's on a good lap as well. Dominic Ligner, 2 tenths off pole, 4 tenths up on his delta. Sir Smokey as well, 2-time champion over the course of seasons 2 and 3. Now finds himself down in P15, yet to put a lap time in. Puts his foot down and is going to hope that it's good enough into the top 10. It's 5th. So a good start from the German, up now into 5th place. So very, very good stuff in the final stages of qualifying. Guillaume Hamlin goes back to the pit lane. Saw a little bit of a slide on the start of his second lap, means that he doesn't have enough time to go for another. Dominic Ligner, though, getting a bit of traffic on his lap time, getting caught behind Elias Troyer, which means he's been forced to back out and now gets the chance to improve on his lap time. Samuel Chumley as well up there for McLaren. He's going to be looking to do his best to get himself in that fight for pole too.
He's going to close the gap a little bit, but he's not going to progress up the order as he starts another lap. So this is it. This is, let's see what they can do. This, talking about pressure, this is the pressure moment. Can all of these drivers, they're out there at the moment. Southfield is up on his best as well. He's just over 3 tenths up, and he's currently down in P7. Fleety's causing a yellow flag, so I think he's gone back to the pit, so that's him done as well. So, and Samuel has invalidated his lap, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, and that's vital at this stage in qualifying. He's not going to be able to put in a good lap time in. Sam Fleety into the pit lane. Yellow flags are out in qualifying as well. Here is Jack Southfield, just over a second off the pole time and just able to hang on to P7 versus Guillaume Hamlin in the end. He's going to be looking to improve. But the good thing about this series is that even a couple of attempts of improvement is going to see Southfield up into P6. A couple attempts more than that, it'll be 5th. So they're looking very strong, looking very competitive towards the sharp end of qualifying.
It is. There is quite a gap. It's very close P1 to P5, and then where Wright currently sits in P6, the race winner from race 1. There is a bit of a wider gap there. So you're talking about half a second split in P1 and P5. So that means good things hopefully for the upcoming race number 2.
Yeah, just moments away, of course, waiting for the final couple of stragglers to finish their lap times. Jack Southfield will be one of them. Of course, the timer has ticked 0, which means, unlike iRacing, unlike Race Room, you are allowed to finish your lap times in ACC. Up to 6th for Jack Southfield, a good time in the end, and not doing too bad at all. A 2:05.5, I believe, in the end. Dominic Aligna finds his way through the final couple of corners. Is this a good lap time, though? Is it going to be good enough for pole?
Half a second up, yeah. So he's
5.
absolutely going to smash it. A low 2:05 incoming, everybody. If he keeps it together nicely, he keeps it. There we go.
Mic drop. Dominic Aligna, ladies and gentlemen, takes pole position. Wow, we were sort of to the lower end of the 6s at the start of qualifying. Now in the lower end of the 5, Sam Fleety, 333 thousandths of a second back. Unfortunately, finds himself only in 2nd. However, with the closeness of that qualifying session, Aligna was able to pull it out the bag right at the end. Jimmy going up to 13th after 15 minutes of qualifying. We'll run you through the grid order for race number 2. It's Aligna that takes pole position, but only with 1 purple sector. Look at that. What is that? 6/10 quicker through the final sector alone compared to Sam Fleety, who was quicker through sectors 1 and 2. He'll be joining the championship leader on the front row. Samuel Chumley 3 with Marie Stryker joining him on row 2. Sir Smoggy makes up the top 5 with Jack Southfield alongside him on row 3. James Wright, Guillaume Hamlin keep each other company on row 4 with Elias Troyer and reigning champion Jamie Nuttall in 10th. Mav Gardner rounds off the grid for those in the pros that put in a lap time. Then comes Patricio Gameo, the pole for the AMS. Then comes McGowan Spies, the championship leader in the AMS 3rd. Blanchet 15th overall, 4th in the AMS, with Cockle and Cisco rounding off the field. With Ethan Faulkner unable to put a lap time in for the pros. He'll be starting from P18. Moments away then from race 2, Paul, and I think we're shaping up for quite a good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's COTA, right? As we touched on at the start of race 1, up the hill into the T1, and anything can happen. And as we saw sort of halfway through the race, unfortunately for Nuttall, he got the concertina effect a few laps into the race, and we could see that. So Dominic should be wary of that in the McLaren, leading us away. He wants to try and get a really good start, take the inside line, and just hope that nobody doesn't come in from behind and ruin his race. And those of them that are in the mid-pack, we might see some 3-4 wide action as we saw in race 1. It was an aggressive few laps. The track is at optimum. It's 32 degrees track temperature, and there's no rain in sight.
Yep, so we're in for a straight old sprint for the 25 minutes that we've got for race 2. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Let's put it that way. Race 1 was something to remember. Of course, if you are tuning in on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications as well to not miss a thing that comes your way in terms of sim racing. We've got absolutely everything. GT3s, open wheels, endurance, radicals, NASCAR, whatever tickles your fancy, we've got it here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. So if you are looking to expand your knowledge in sim racing or find a home in a series, you definitely are going to find a home here. My name is Zach Sweeney. I've got Paul Glover alongside me in the commentary booth, and we're bringing you the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series Season 5. If you are only just tuning in now, what a good time to tune in. We're 25 seconds away from getting ourselves back onto another formation lap before we're rolling start green flag running for our second race of the evening. Dominic Aligna taking a very good pole position. Must be interested to think what he can do from this pole, Paul, because Sam Fleety, he gave him a good fight over race 1 and in qualifying. Is it going to be plain sailing for the championship leader?
Well, qualifying is one thing, race is totally something else, right? And as you pointed out, Sam Fleety quickest in sectors 1 and sectors 2, with Aligna showing some decent pace. Huge gap in pace, actually, for sector 3. Though, I don't know, really. It's going to be hard to predict, but it's clear that the championship leader has got some real pace in that Golf liveried McLaren. So, you know, he clearly had some pace in race 1 because, as you pointed out, both McLarens made decent progression. And he's got clean air ahead of him. So we might see him run away. I don't know. I mean, I'll be interested to see how Wright does. You know, he won race 1, currently qualified P7, starting from that position. Hamlin will be a little bit disappointed, I think, with his qualifying performance there in P8. And Nuttall will be hoping he doesn't get spun round again. So, and the BMW, you know, way back there in P11.
Yeah. So he can basically only go forwards unless he falls behind the AMs, of course. But in terms of the pros, he can only go forward. So we'll see for Mav Gardner. At race 1, starting on the front row really wasn't the result that he would have wanted. So he's going to be hoping to move his way forward. Talking of moving their way forward, Samuel Chumley off the back of that race win last time out for round 3 is going to be hoping that he can claw back some points relative to Dominic Eligner as we now approach, obviously, the final couple of rounds of the season. We've been to the Nürburgring, Suzuka for round 2, Brands Hatch marked the halfway point. We're here in Kota. In a week's time, we go to Bathurst and Misano to round off our 6-round, 7-race calendar. Quite a good one, it must be said. You know, we're taking some of the best that we've seen over the course of the last few seasons, and quite a diverse calendar, it must be said. Paul, I think, you know, some good tracks on there, and thankfully they've brought us some good racing too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of many of those tracks you just mentioned there. I think probably the least favourite for me out of the batch has got to be Bathurst. I know it's a lot of people's favourites, and I think I've only ever had one good race on the mountain. So, but I love Suzuka. I love Brands Hatch. It's my local track. And I'm a big fan of Misano as well, and Kota. And I even though it's tough to overtake on, I do love a bit of Nerbs as well. So, yeah, great season. And there are some great tracks I'm sure they'll be announced for Season 6 after the completion of Season 5.
Yeah, for sure, because, yeah, this championship just continues to grow and grow. Of course, the Sim Racing Collective also have got their 500 Endurance Series, basically reflecting the real-life British GT sort of Silverstone 500 type of thing. 500-mile race is around about 3 hours in length, and also qualifying session as well. The interesting thing about that Endurance Series is the fact that if you win the championship, you get your ticket to the SimGrid VCO Grand Final Endurance Series, which should be something very interesting. Of course, the community-based thing, sort of the 10 biggest communities on SimGrid host their championships, and the winning championship teams get themselves the ticket to the grand final. So if you are interested, I think that's on this Saturday, and then we'll roll through the rest of the season as well. If you do like yourself a bit of endurance stuff as well, and you just want more of the TSRC, but for right now, we'll focus our attention on the PC GT3 Series Season 5, Round 4, Race 2, here in the circuit of the Americas. Dominic Eligner, championship leader, pole position setter for race 2. Sam Fleety, Samuel Chumley, and Maurice Stryker in behind. We're moments away from 25 minutes more of racing action here in Texas. Through the final corner, and Dominic Eligner sets the pace. When is he going to bolt it towards turn number 1? It's a very long run, so we might see very similar to what we saw from James Wright over the course of race number 1. We're waiting for the ACC equivalent of Barney the flagman to wave the green. He's got it there, patiently waiting to wave to send us underway. But thank you to everyone watching along on the JP Broadcaster YouTube channel. Dominic Eligner about to put his foot to the floor. Is he going to control the pace down in towards turn number 1? The green flag is waved, and we are go back again in Kota. Dominic Eligner has the inside line. What can Sam Fleety do from the front row? He tries to go the long way round, gets pushed off though because Dominic Eligner goes in deep. Samuel Chumley gets the up and under, pulls himself alongside the Audi R8. Has he got the metal to go the long way around? Has that McLaren got the speed to go the long way around? Not quite able to, and quite a calm start amongst the top 3.
Yeah, there's some contact at the back by the looks of it, potentially maybe a couple of nudges here and there, but it looks like for the most part people have made it through alive, which is absolutely fantastic. So there's contact at the back at one point though, I've seen. I think that might be between 462 and 13, so Cockle and McGowan potentially, but yeah, really great stuff as we see side-by-side action here between the Porsche and the Ferrari as they go and try to squeeze, and then Nuttall also nearly sort of clips the back of the Lexus there, the Porsche. So yeah, some great bits of racing, and I think with the order being a little bit more normal, we haven't seen the carnage behind on the 3 or 4 wide for me. I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, it did, and you can see that fight between James Wright and Elias Stroyer continuing on. Very low on the brakes though. Matt Gardner's got it all wrong. He sent the move to the inside. There's contact with James Wright, who's sent off the circuit. Fair play to Gardner to getting that stopped as well as he did. Unfortunately, it wasn't good enough to avoid a crash, and he finds himself behind. And James Wright is definitely not going to be too happy with that particular incursion. A big mistake from Mav Gardner. He finds himself side by side with Ryan Blanchett, who in front of him sees the fight between the 2 Ferraris just ahead of him are Spies and Gameo, I believe. They run their way through the Istanbul Turn 8, remake the right-hander instead of the left-hander, a very long triple apex right-hander through 17 and 18 before you head yourself into 19. Lucas Spies not really quite on the pace relative to the top two here in Kota. Blanchet immediately back onto the counter-attack to the inside of turn 20.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, he did well to slow down that BMW. He's now among, there's contact there as well. Unfortunately, that means that Spies and Bloodshed, I think that's the two cars that have come together, and one of them has come off worse than the other because one of them went into the barrier, but they both kept going. They both got severe damage at the front, and they're both going to keep going, or maybe they'll come into pit and repair. Who knows? But that's a shame. We didn't quite see what happened there. We're going to get a replay. Here we go. So, yeah, they both hit the... Oh, so, yes. There we go. Both ran over the sausages and it unsettled both of the cars. And that's what happened. And they're both off the track once more as well. So, unfortunately for them, I think their race is over.
Yeah, at least in reasonable contention. Thankfully for them, they're in the AMs, and the AMs have got slightly less people, so if they continue on, they can still score some good points. Elias Troyer looking for a move on Jamie Nuttall, and it's round 2 for these guys. Well, round 3, actually. We had their first round in the first part of race 1, and then they had a bit of a break while Elias Troyer spun. And when Nuttall spun again, it was round 2. So we're back now for round 3 of Nuttall versus Troyer. Two champions, two reigning champions as well. I believe Troyer did take the silvers over the course of last season, and is now fighting with Nuttall, of course, for P8 and 9. So interesting battles going on. There is Lucas Spies and his very battle-scarred Ferrari 296. Crawling at the back end of the circuit, trying to score as many points as he can. But towards the front, Dominic Aligna not having an easy time with Sam Fleety on his tail.
No, I'm really surprised because at one point I looked and the gap was opening up, and then I looked while you were talking just then before we cut to them, and I was like, hold on, the gap's come down. And you've obviously got the battle for P3 right behind these two as well. So I'm wondering if Dominic Aligna has made a mistake somewhere, and that might be it. But because last time round, Fleety was slower. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what has meant that gap coming down, but race on, because the top 4 are in very close proximity to each other. As we can see, Nuttall has lost the position. He's trying to find the slipstream on Troyer, and he's going to try and go round the outside of the T1. That's going to be difficult. Oh, there's contact between the two of them. I don't really know what happened there and how. And I don't know who moved into who, but he shouldn't be making contact down there for me.
No, definitely not. Because, you know, it's a straight line. You're meant to be pointing straight, not into each other. I think what happened was just naturally the car sort of was drawn together, that magic force in sim racing that no one really blames themselves on. Just bringing each other close and a slight bit of contact. No harm, no foul, though, fortunately, between the two of them. They have got James Wright for company just behind, of course, our race 1 winner by quite dominant fashion. On the pace, of course, but track position does mean quite a lot when the... you know, when the field is this close and when overtaking is this close as well. Inside line for James Wright, he tries to find his way past, but no avenue through right now. I think knowing how strong the Lexus is, you want to be setting yourself out as best as possible for the straight. Maurice Stryker looking to the inside of Samuel Chumley. Is this going to be an easy move? I don't think so, because that McLaren looks confident on the outside.
Yeah, and it's just this is what we saw in race number 1. And for those that joined us for that, it was just constant battling. But we've got smaller groups of cars out on track. We haven't got the 3 or 4-way battles we were seeing before. So, you know, you go on the attack here, you're not necessarily going to be as susceptible at the moment from a car behind, because Maurice Stryker there's got P5s, which is smoggy. Is 1.5 seconds back, so he can concentrate on attacking Shimodi, who's currently holding out in P3. But Fleety's right on the back again of the race leader, 3 tenths back. So and Fleety I was just about to say has the fastest lap of the race, but Dominic Aligna has just set the fastest lap of the race with a 2:05.7. I think Zach's having some microphone issues again, so he'll be back with us momentarily.
Right. Am I good now? Are we better?
I think you're better, but I think the man who's driving the broadcast will confirm. But yeah, great battle for P1. I think around certain parts of the track which we saw in qualifying, it's clear that Fleety has got the pace, but and then in Sector 3, I think Dominic Eligna is able to kind of pull that gap again and using the strengths of the McLaren. I'm a big Audi driver. I like the Audi. I used to be Aston before that, and but the Audi for me is a good proper car. Oh, Matt Gardner is off the track. He was facing the wrong way, so he's done a 360 pirouette, and away he goes.
Yeah, he's not had the best of nights, unfortunately, Mav Gardner. Yeah, I think I am going to have to invest in a new mic at some point. After doing Formula E on the weekend, my mind's set on a headset because it's just so much easier to commentate with.
That's what I've got.
I'll
send you a link to what I've got here.
Good,
but
good.
You'll need to buy a little box to connect it up because it's not USB or anything
Oh,
like that.
yeah, it's one of them ones. It's fine, it'll do. As long as I sound good, as long as I've got my hands free as well.
I mean, I can't change my voice, but I believe my microphone's good quality, so
that's all right.
So we'll be okay. But I'll send it through to you. It's not cheap, but it's worth the money.
100%.
So and also getting to different ear cups as well also makes a difference. Talking for somebody who can sit here and talk forever. So yeah, Fleety then putting Dominic Eligna under immense pressure. The gap kind of goes towards half a second and then it comes down again. So it's the yo-yo effect we're currently seeing at the moment, Zach.
Yeah, Sam Fleety not quite able to sort of get close enough to Dominic Eligna, which, you know, he's able to stay close with him, just not quite close enough in order to go for a move. It swings in roundabouts. The McLaren's quicker, then the Audi's quicker. No one can really get a good enough advantage to actually spring a move or feel any pressure. So Sam Fleety, while yes, he is quicker, a 2:05.7 in race game is very quick. I think that's actually quicker than he did in qualifying, was it not?
I think you might be right. Let me have a little look, and I'll tell you in a moment. I'll confirm that for you. But yeah, he set the fastest lap just that time round, and they've kind of at one point Dominic had it, and then Sam had it, and then Dominic had it, and now Sam's got it back again. So, but yeah, in qualifying he did a 2:05.8. So yes, you are correct. That is quicker than what he managed in qualifying. And the pole time was a 2:05.4.
Very quick. Of course, assisted in the race with optimum track conditions as opposed to just fast, and also a bit of slipstream for good measure. And the motivation of driving for a win as well also gives you a couple of tenths of a second. But obviously, for those unfamiliar with the ACC track conditions, you've got green, no rubber down on the track. Then of course you go to fast, then to optimum. Fast is when there's some rubber laid down, and then optimum is when you've got plenty. Drive through already for Mav Gardner. I'll be honest, I'm not too surprised from that, considering his track record this race.
No, as he nearly became a 10-pin ball, didn't he? And some of the drivers nearly became some pins. So yeah, and we've just not long ago seen him having a spin off track. See, here we go. Right, the gap between P1 and P2's opened up again. So, you know, does the McLaren look after its tyres compared to the Audi, or is it a case of Dominic Eligna kind of holding back and try not to take out too much tyre life from them? As we look at Jack Southfield in the Bentley, as I like to call it, Boatley. Hamlin's done well. He's up into P6, so he's gained a few positions, hasn't he? A couple of positions. He's up 2 positions. Unfortunately for Southfield, he was down 1. The biggest gainers currently for this race are Cockle and Cisco, both up 4 places.
Boom. Nice moves from them, and just goes to show that track position isn't everything. Scoring themselves some good points as well, 2nd and 3rd in the overall championship standings for this race in particular. Of course, in the actual championship, Ryan Cockle wasn't doing too well, considering he got the reverse grid pole position. But again, it's not the most abundant field. So we've got Lucas Spies led the way coming in. Ryan Cockle was in 8th, so with a 9th and a 6th. Again, good results, just not quite up to scratch with the likes of Lucas Spies, whose worst result so far this season was a 2nd place. I think he has worsened that over the course of race 1, and will once again maybe take his drop week this week. Who knows? We'll obviously wait and see when the standings come out, and we'll update you in a week's time when we go to Bathurst, all ready for the penultimate round. I don't really know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that we've got so much short seasons, because it's a good thing because it keeps the championship fresh, it keeps it short and sweet, it keeps it, you know, fun and entertaining. You're not really waiting around too long for the season to finish. But also, it just means that as soon as it started, it's finished, which, I don't know, from a commentary perspective is a little bit disappointing, but the championships are always fantastic in these six-week dashes.
Yeah, and I think it keeps the interest of the drivers, right? I mean, I know that we're here to commentate and we play an important part, but also you want drivers to turn up, and it's hard for drivers to commit to long seasons. And if you keep the format mixed like tonight, I mean, I've never commentated on an event where there's race number one that's set by the championship, and then there's a qualifying after race one. I've never. This is a first for me, and that's an interesting. It's also a different format that people aren't necessarily used to, and sometimes it's about trying to find something that's there's a little bit out of the norm out there, because everybody does the standard stuff these days. A little bit of endurance racing, sprint races, two races in a round. So it's good to kind of mix things up, and you want drivers to turn up every week. And as I say, if it's too long, people have got lives away from sim racing, don't forget, and it's got to fit in around that.
Well, some of the top people are on sim racing full time. A lot of these people have got full-time jobs. They've got families and wives that crave attention and this, that, and the other, all the boring stuff they don't really want to pay attention to. They'd rather be sat at that sim rig
You'd rather be at a sim rig than spending time with your kids. Is that what you're saying, Zach?
Some people. I'm 17. I ain't got kids, so I'm good. I can spend all my time I like on the sim rig. I haven't actually got one. I sold it. But I can spend all my time I like at the desk. I've got no other commitments, especially now I've finished college. I'm all good. But some people, yeah, they'd rather be at the sim rig. But unfortunately, they have got other commitments they have to attend to. They have got lives. They do have to touch grass sometimes, which means they cannot commit to a full season. Another good thing is that it keeps the championship itself short and sweet. If you mess up, you haven't got to wait too long for a second chance at a championship. And if things go well, you haven't got to wait too long. Is Jim McGowan? Oh, he's managed to hold it, just able to keep it on the runoff. However, not a fun spin to say the least, considering the fact he was all over the back of Cisco.
Yeah, and that's gonna give him some flat spots that his rim's going to be shaking a little bit. Hamlin's lost out, unfortunately for him, to Southfield, so Hamlin's dropped back into P7. He's only up one position at the moment, and the gap to Southfield's opened up to half a second already, so Southfield's going to be focused on trying to get onto the back of Smoggy, who's racing in the other Audi tonight, along with Fleety, who's in the other, and Fleety's got the fastest lap of the race back, a 2:05.7 that we saw earlier on. Some great pace, and the best from Dominic Illinger is it's ridiculous how close their fastest laps are tonight. It's from Dominic, it's 2:05.775, and from Fleety, it's a 2:05.715.
Very, very close indeed when it comes to fastest lap times. Only 10 minutes left to go of race number 2. Short and sweet, these 25-minute dashes. I do like the sprint format. Keeps things nice and interesting. A lot more tame race 2 compared to race 1, but still some good pockets of battles going on, like this good fight for the podium. It must be said, after the dominance really that's been shown from the Ferrari 296 in ACC in recent times, it's not really quite been on the pace here in COTA, and it's made for quite a shake-up in terms of the running order of things. You know, McLaren being up there. I mean, Aligna is always going to be up there. He's already taken 2 wins so far this season. Chumley as well. It's been a McLaren 100% win rate, but sort of the narratives I'm trying to push is that the Ferrari not quite as quick as maybe we've been expecting, considering the recent history in ACC. Marie Stryker pushing for P3 to knock Samuel Chumley off of the podium, promote himself up there, and see the Dutchman take to the 3rd place on the podium. 9.5 minutes left to go now, of course, and well, with that, not a lot of laps around a long circuit like COTA, which means that Stryker, he's not got a lot of time left on his side.
No, he has. He's gonna start become a little bit more decisive, and maybe has to take a risk or two. Sometimes you've got to, in life, you've got to take a risk, as he's tucking into the slipstream of the McLaren. He pulls out left to the side. Has he got enough overdrive? I think he might do. Is he gonna brake later than the McLaren? And he's got the inside line, but then because the McLaren's on the right hand side, he's now going to have the inside line for the right hander. But you can see the Stryker's trying to take a different line. I thought he was going to try and go for an Alonso move, and but no, has to settle back in. So it just shows you, even with that overdrive, it's really hard to make a move here because of the way the track is. One moment you're on the inside, the next moment you're back on the out.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what I love about Kota is it swings and roundabouts. 1 minute you've got the advantage, the next you haven't.
Hamlin, yellow
And,
flag.
oh, Hamling is off from, I think, 5th or 6th at some point he was in.
Yeah.
Now he's down to 7th and out of this race. So a big hit for some point for him. Finds himself out. And, well, that is a big, big shame for the man that finished 2nd in race 1 and continues to impress in this championship. What's happened there then? What has motivated him to just escape back to the pit lane?
I don't know. I don't see contact between him and another car being reported. So I wonder if he's had a moment all by himself, or maybe he's had a technical issue. I know he had an issue a couple of months ago where his base broke. That holds his wheel to his desk. He had to get a replacement. So don't know if he's had a technical issue or whether he's just had a moment in that Lamborghini. Because as fast as that Lamborghini is, it can be a handful to drive.
Yes, naturally aspirated V10, I think rear mounted as well. So it is quite stable on the rear end and very agile, very quick on the straights, but it will naturally spit you out if you let it. If just full stop, if you let it, really. It's that trust between man and machine, making sure that you can, trust what the car's doing, the car can trust what you're doing. Yes, it's a pretend race car, I get that, but even in that sense, you've got to trust the machine that's underneath you, and any small mistake, any small discrepancy, and around you go, it will chew you up and it will spit you out. Dominic Aligna doing a great job of building the gap between himself and Sam Fleety. That McLaren looking really good in terms of race trim. The 111 McLaren, however, of Samuel Chumley, still unable to shake Maurice Stryker, who again not quite close enough to go for a move, but still close enough to put some pressure on.
Yeah, and again, it just shows you the pace of that McLaren, and it's very hard when you're chasing down another car at times, and you feel like you are the quicker of the cars, and also at certain parts, certain corners, and sometimes you could be a little bit too close to the car in front, and then that upsets the momentum that you're trying to carry. So otherwise it's worth just sort of spending a bit of time working out where you're stronger and actually falling back a little bit to try and take a bit of a run up, or and think about 3 or 4 corners ahead. So but yeah, going back, show about Mr. Hamlin, ejected back to the pits, and like I say, I don't see contact between him or anybody else, so we'll try and work out what's happened there.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can. Only
he
less than
had
6 minutes gone.
I'm just watching the replay. He had a funny glitch with his internet, and it looked like the game sort of made him go through another car, and then the game put him into the wall, like through the circuit barriers, and then when he came back onto the car, he's then pulled over to the left-hand side. So I wonder if the game, he's had a bit of an internet spike or something that's caused that, and then unfortunately maybe the car's got damaged in the process.
Potentially so, which is a shame because you can't really control the internet as such. It's, I guess, the equivalent of your engine blowing out or something in real life, getting a random puncture or whatever, translating into the sim world. It's a shame when it's something you can't control, because then you've got really no one to blame, and sim racers love something to blame for it, or someone to blame for it, but it's just one of those things that you can't help.
What,
yeah,
sim
honestly,
racers? Yeah. What, sim racers blaming someone else or something?
never.
Yeah, never.
They always take
Never,
responsibility.
never.
They always
Oh,
have
yeah.
their hands up.
People on the internet are so kind. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's never their fault. As we look here, and Stryker's still trying to make a way. And I think that's good. It's like, have a little look. Don't let him forget that you're there. But Shimodi doesn't seem like somebody that cracks under pressure. Would I be right?
No, yeah, you would be right. He is very stone-faced, I suppose, with his defense. He doesn't really let much phase him. I think he knows how good the car is underneath him, and Maurice Stryker, I think, has led him into that sense of security that he's not quite close enough to go for anything. So Chumley is just chilling. Yes, he's got a car behind him. It's not quite close enough to really go for anything. And you can see there, Stryker going very wide out of the exit of turn 18. He's really struggling to keep the car at a level that runs with Chumley. Chumley is just driving the car nicely, keeping it under the limit, whereas Stryker really overdriving the car quite a lot, which I think is feeding more and more to give that advantage to Chumley at this stage.
Yeah, you might be right. So we can just see them up ahead in the shot there as up into T1 as we look at the battle here with Southfield and Smoggy in the Audi. Smoggy under bit of pressure from the Bentley. We've just 3.5 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. There we go. I've got my words out. I'll put my teeth back in.
Yeah, getting old a little bit. Maybe we'll put you in a home soon. It's fine.
Hopefully
a good one.
Ageism at his best. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Go on. Call me a boomer. Come on.
Oh, always. You should hear what I'm like with James. To be fair, James always gets the stick. Thankfully, James can take it.
Okay,
Is the good thing.
I'm going to buy you your first razor next week. Don't worry.
Oh,
okay.
cheers, mate.
Yeah,
cheers,
you're
mate.
well.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm getting a couple coming through. A couple of baby fluff. It's fine. Now the most
we used to call it bum fluff back in the day. So,
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know why bum fluff. I don't really know, but anyway, that's what we used to call it.
Your bum at that stage.
Yeah, I guess so. maybe that's what it is. Anyway, we're digressing quite badly, but Striker, I can see still up ahead, still trying to apply pressure, but we've still got this battle here for P5. And the other battle that's kind of still raging on is the Nuttall's got a little bit of pressure from right behind, but other than that, the battle for the last step on the podium is the one that's really kind of the hottest one at the moment. But we'll see if Maurice Striker can actually make a move as we look now at Ryan Cockle.
Yeah. He is, at the moment, P11, the Canadian, running quite strong in P2 in the AMS, however, being closed down by Paulo Cisco in P12. We are onto the penultimate lap of the race. The next time Maligna crosses the line, it will be the final lap, which I believe he has now just done. A little bit deep from Cockle, and Cisco is going to be eating up at that gap as much as he can. But again, time not on their side. They really need to be thinking quite quickly as to how to get these moves done.
Yeah, with the last lap coming up now, and but at the same time, it's like, how much do you risk? You're going to be flying points away at this point. Do you settle in? You just want to be there just in case. Oh, as he gets the Bentley, I thought was side. That was really the camera angle there. I made it look like they were side by side, but the Bentley is strong here, isn't it? At this particular point, but then as soon as it kind of gets into the corners because of the size of it, as it gets a little bit unsettled there. And I think going back to what you were saying earlier on, you look at the Audi looks planted, as where the Bentley looks like it's like a workout, a little not so settled. He's probably, if you were going on board and looked at his wheel, he's probably doing a lot more to the left, to the right, just trying to sort of get the best out of the big Bentley.
Yeah, quite chunky. More massive, and therefore doesn't like to change what it's currently doing. So Isaac Newton once said. So more inertia, therefore doesn't really want to change direction very nicely. So it is a bit of a slug to chuck through the corners, whereas that Audi R8, the weight is firmly planted exactly where you like it. Small, it's agile, and it will change direction exactly when you turn the steering wheel. However, open that Bentley up onto the straight, and my word, will it fly. Considering its sheer size, it is actually quite a quick car. Jack Southwood extracting the most out of it. So Smokey now on his target, but again, only a couple more corners left to go. Talking of only a couple more corners left to go, this man right here, Dominic Aligna, was under a little bit of pressure from Sam Fleet in the opening stages, but has since ran away with it. The clock will tick down to 0 seconds. The checkered flag will wave. One more corner left to go for the championship leader, who struggled a little bit in race 1. He took pole position and he's ran away with race 2. He celebrates across the line, victorious in Kota. Sam Fleety, 4 seconds back, will join him on the podium in second. Samuel Chumley will round off the podium. Maurice Striker not quite able to top him in the end, and well, he is only able to muster up 4th place. Same too in that fight between Sir Smokey. Jack Southwood unable to get himself into the top 5. A more tame, but definitely still an interesting race too.
Yeah, indeed. And Dominic Aligna, kind of stamping authority on the championship as well in that second race. Kind of from pole to win. So what more can you ask from him?
Nothing. Well, fastest lap as well. It's not good enough, mate. You didn't get fast lap. It's disgusting. What? Why, mate? Just be quicker. Do better, mate. Nah, it's not good enough. No, I'm joking. He is a very quick driver and adds to his tally 3 wins now over the course of the 4-race season. Paulo Cisco still fighting away with Ryan Cockle. He's unable to make much of a dent onto the Ferrari. Gameo, by the way, did win in the AMS. They've been overshadowed a little bit by the action in the pros. Cockle and Cisco are the podium for the AMS. Lucas Spies, though, championship leader in the AMS. Well, yes, it's a smaller Anfield, and he's still going to be scoring some decent points. Relative to where he should be as a championship leader, 5th place isn't great for Lucas Spies.
No, it's not. He'll probably walk away a little bit disappointed with that performance. But you know, you can kind of chalk it up and then concentrate on the upcoming round.
I suppose so. Well, as soon as everyone has crossed the line, we'll bring you the results and we'll wrap it up. Unfortunately, we only have 2 races for you this evening. We can't go on and on and on as much as we'd love to in terms of the action here on the TSRC. We'll run you through the final finishing order. Dominic Eligner took victory, his 3rd of the season, ahead of Sam Fleety and Samuel Chumley, who adds to his podium count as well. Marie Stryker, Sir Smoggy, the top 5 with Jack Southfield just in behind. Elias Troyer in P7. Reigning champion Jamie Nuttall only able to muster up 8th, with James Wright, Kameo Gardner just in behind. And racing drivers being tricky and leaving the session before we get a final chance to run through. Paulo Cisco was 11th, Spies in 12th, and then Gardner was P13 at the end of the road. Paul, it's been a pleasure, of course, to be alongside you in the commentary booth. What's been your thoughts? I mean, quite a nice welcome to the series.
Yeah, no, indeed. Particularly race 1, as you say, had a bit more action because the starting grid was backwards and you know, showing the reverse championship order, which is something that I like and keeps things interesting. And we saw three by side, 4 by side, and we had these little kind of pockets of battles going out throughout the whole race. Race 2, completely different story. You know, drivers showing their real pace in the qualifying session. And that's meant that Dominic Eligner has run away with the win in race 2 and keeping the championship lead. But yeah, some great driving, clean driving as well. Nothing too aggressive. Really nice to see. I think the only real mistake we saw in race 2 was Gardner kind of forgetting where his brake pedal was. But luckily it wasn't too much carnage. And in race 1, we saw a coming together, which meant that Troyer unfortunately got spun. And then we saw the other one from Nuttall in T1 as well. But yeah, some great racing. Loving the format. And I'm back for the next round as well next week. So
Is Kelsey not here either?
No, I don't think so. So I'll be. I think I'm covering next week as well. So great introduction to the series, and I'll be back for another round.
Couldn't get rid of him, could I? Can't wait for Kelsey. No, I'm joking. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it there first. It's been the TSRC PC GT3 Series Season 5, Round 4 here at the Circuit of the Americas in the US of A. It's been myself, Zach Sweeney, Paul Glover alongside me in the commentary booth. Kieran Sharp, the man himself, pushing the buttons, making sure the broadcast looks very, very pretty for all of you at home. It's been a sensational evening of action. In a week's time, we take to the penultimate round in Bathurst. The week after that, the season finale in Misano. I definitely cannot wait to talk you through the next couple of weeks of action here for the Sim Racing Collective. From myself and Paul, however, it's a very warm goodbye.